Welcome to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. And now, your host and mine, Trevor Devall.
The audience just gets better and better and better. Here we are for episode 7 of Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. I am your intrepid host, Trevor Devall. Welcome back, everybody. I am pleased to notice that on the website, I've got fans now, listeners of the show from all over the world. We've got some people in Ireland. We've got some people in Germany. A whole lot in the States and Canada, of course. More so in the States and Canada, which is a pleasant surprise. Because I kind of assumed that it'd be more Canadians. But, yeah, thanks for listening, all you Americans down there. It's good to hear you. Or good for you to hear me, rather. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I've been sort of on hiatus from the show for a couple of weeks. Because I had to go to town for some personal stuff and bobbity-bobbity-bob, but we're back now with episode 7, and going strong, I might add. We've got some cool guests coming up down the pipe. There's Scotty McNeil's going to be on the show, and Brian Drummond, and a very special episode we're going to have with Carl and Mike, the director and engineer from Ocean Studios, so that's going to be a cool one too. In the meantime, I've been busy auditioning, doing all kinds of auditions for all kinds of upcoming shows that are going to be fantastic, and of course I can't say anything about them because we sign all these wonderful non-disclosure agreements and things, but trust me, they're going to be great shows. This is providing, of course, I get cast on them. If I don't get cast on them, then I don't really care, do I? No, I don't. Also doing a lot of commercial stuff lately. I just did some big Ford commercial. I don't know, it's bizarre, whatever. And, of course, lots of Death Note, which is turning out very quickly to be the big fan favorite. All kinds of people asking me about that. It's looking good. It's looking good, kids. Boy, let me tell you, it's looking like a hell of a good show. And also, as a little bit of a spoiler, without actually breaking my non-disclosure agreement, be sure you check out the behind-the-scenes features on Death Note, because there's a couple of very cool interviews with some very good friends of mine. So, absolutely check that out when it finally gets released. And speaking of very good friends of mine, I gotta tell you, I am more than happy to bring to you the dear, dear fans out there in internet land, my friend and yours, Mr. Brad Swale. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me, buddy.
It's good to have you here. Welcome to the dungeon. Welcome to it.
Thanks so much.
I trust you're all comfortable. You've got your bottle of Dr. Pepper there.
Indeed.
Ready to go.
Of course.
How's things lately? Are you?
Things are good.
Yeah?
Things are good.
You look well.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for saying so.
You've been working out.
I don't work out.
No?
I do play sports.
Oh, yes. You're a big hockey player, aren't you?
Of course.
Of course.
I am Canadian, after all.
That's true. I guess that would make me, more of a European then if I don't play the hockey. Because I don't. I never did play the hockey. I never got into it.
I actually never played growing up. I played street hockey all the time, but, I'm a left coaster, so not a ton of access to ice time. So
of course,
I grew up playing baseball, and I still play ball in the spring, summer, and then hockey in the winter.
And you're a born and bred Vancouverite?
Yes, one of the few.
One of the few, the proud.
Indeed. There's maybe
I think
5 or 6 of us.
I think 5, yeah. There was just a 6th born last week.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. All right. Hopefully they stick around town.
Yes, hopefully. Well, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you.
Hey.
Let's get right into things, because we got a very busy show and a whole lot of questions coming up, so why don't we do my favorite thing, play the little history bumper. And now, Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests presents In Memoriam, a history of our guests' long and faithful service to the cause of voice acting. Once again, a mass of shows that you've been involved with that, of course, I pull off the computer. Thanks to our good friends at imdb.com, Mr. Brad Swale. You've got a whole list of credits here, Bubba. A whole bunch. And the first one, I love this one.
Oh, no, here we go.
Because the show is Black Lagoon.
Oh, yes, okay.
A very cool show. Lots of swearing in that one.
Yeah.
Good times. But what I love about this is, because it's a Japanese show, of course,
right,
they put they list the show as the title of the show as though a Japanese speaker would be saying it. So the official name of the show, according to IMDb, is Baraku Ragoon.
Sweet.
I love this.
That's awesome.
Baraku Ragoon.
It's priceless.
I love it, Baraku Ragoon. You will watch it, Baraku Ragoon. It's a good show, and that's new to this year, right? We just started doing that this year.
Absolutely, yeah.
You are Rock.
Yes.
The young lead
Certainly.
guy, I'm assuming.
One of them, yeah. I wouldn't call him the lead. There's several leads on the show.
Several.
But, yeah, he's right up there.
But you do tend to play the young ingenue all the time. I mean,
true.
that's your thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
You're the lead guy.
I can't complain too much. The only thing I can complain about is if I don't get cast as the lead, I don't get cast on the show, right? So if I don't get the lead, I ain't working.
Well, now you've done some things though. I mean, you've done other
things.
roles, and we'll get to those.
Okay.
Well, we will get to those. But I do want to talk a little bit about Black Lagoon, not
Yeah.
just because
Please.
I'm on it too. But I've actually got a really cool little clip here that I want to play for you
All right.
from Black Lagoon. So,
Look at you all prepared.
Well, look at me
Nice.
doing my homework.
Yes.
Maybe it's too much to ask, but could you stop throwing food at me?
You can't fool me. Santa Maria sees right through your friendly talk, you liar.
Well, I can see how my words wouldn't mean much to you since I'm helping with this kidnapping. But the truth is, I'm really just a crook in training. You worried?
I'll be fine. My father would never let anything happen to me.
Father? But aren't you supposed to be an orphan?
Who told you that? It was probably the cartel.
If you're looking for pity, you won't find it here. If you're gonna tell lies, you could at least come up with a better one than that. You know, you're a pretty unlikable kid. So where'd you hear the name Lovelace anyway? For your information, it's the least noble house of the 13 families. Although, that does make it a little more believable.
Is that Kathy Westlick who's doing that kid?
It certainly sounds like
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was listening to is it Tabitha? No, I think it's Kathy.
Very well
She
could
does
be.
a lot of little boys. So there it is. There's a clip from Barakaragoon. Do you remember that? You remember recording that episode?
Oh, yeah, for sure. A little bit.
What was going? Do you remember what was going on in the story at that time?
Not
No.
a clue.
I know that was a leading question because none of us ever really know what the hell's going on in the story. That's the great myth of us. We don't really know what's happening in the show.
And if we do, we know for a couple lines in that scene, and then you forget them and move on. And so, we move at such a frantic pace usually for these shows because when we're recording, as you very well know, it's generally our lines. Record a line, move on to our next line. So we get as much background as we can, and then we move on.
Hey.
Memorize a line, forget it immediately. Memorize the next one, forget it immediately.
See, I think that you're even more of a professional than I am if that's the case because I don't even bother memorizing. I just Barakaragoon, that's gonna be a big one, and of course, another big one that we're working on right now is Death Note.
Yes,
you are
indeed.
light on that show. You're not.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but
Tell me.
well, I'll tell you that Death Note is like a huge score because it's like I think it's probably the biggest show this year. I mean, you've done some conventions this year, right? Yeah. So I'm sure that they've come up to you with the Death Note books and saying, "Oh, please sign my Death Note book."
Yeah, you have to be really careful when you're autographing a Death Note, I find. I don't particularly want to kill myself off anytime
Exactly.
soon. At least not until like the show is finished. It's just bad form, I would think.
And Scotty won't even sign it.
No?
No,
I have-
McNeil won't even touch it.
I have a trick.
Oh, yes?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, bring me your Death Notes and you'll see my trick. I'm still alive, so it must be working.
It must be working, exactly. Gundam Seed Destiny is a show that's on TV right now on YTV, and you were in that playing Owl. Owl? Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Are you a regular?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Owl. I never know how to pronounce these
Yeah,
things.
and I was able to reprise my role as Diarca.
Of course.
as well. on
Yes,
that
that's right.
series.
Because
So, yeah.
Diarca, that was Gundam Seed.
Absolutely,
Diarca.
yeah. And he comes back in bits and pieces in Destiny. Not,
Cool.
Not so much, but that was, pretty much the first time I've ever had two characters in the same series, really. That's something that doesn't really happen to me too much.
So, two characters in the same series. The voices, are they fairly similar, or are you doing something different with it, or?
Well, kind of a funny story there. You may know that I've worked on a few different Gundam series in my time.
Yes.
My first was Gundam Wing. I played Catra.
Right.
And then I was lucky enough to get cast as Amuro in Mobile Suit Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Gundam Seed came around, they didn't want to see me for auditions. and I got all hurt and offended, as actors usually do.
Yes, naturally.
And eventually, I think, the tears and the begging and the groveling and all that kind of stuff finally got me an audition slot. So I came in reading for Diarca, and my notes for that audition were basically, okay, Brad, any of your initial instincts you have towards this character, just do the opposite. So that was basically my direction for the audition. So instead of being the young, energetic, crying type character, I came in as gruff and kind of dark and pissed off, and I got cast. So that was a lot of fun for me because I really wanted to keep working on the Gundam stuff. I didn't care if I was going to be soldier number 38 who dies, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I've been several of those in the series as well, right?
They're the best characters in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was really excited to play a role that was, kind of different than some of the other things that I did. And when Owl came up in Destiny, this was very strange for me because I didn't audition for it. They decided, I guess, to take a chance on me, and if I totally blew it, they were just going to recast.
Wow.
But that was really, really sweet of them, I thought. So for Owl, who's a little more eccentric and kind of crazy, I channeled my inner Cobra Commander essentially from growing up watching G.I. Joe and stuff, and they just let me kind of go nuts with them, and that was a real riot. Particularly, bouncing back and forth between the two characters. Not that they really, shared a lot of screen time.
Right.
But yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's obviously they know that you're a big draw for the Gundam series by this point. I mean, everybody. Oh yeah, Mr. Humble. Stop it, please. Give me some more. Give me some more. Stop. Give me some more. Give me some more. Mega Man NT Warrior.
Yeah.
Who were you on that?
I was Lan.
Of course, Lan. Yes.
Oh, and also Cross Fusion Mega Man.
Cross Fusion,
which was great because that meant I got more action figures. And that's really what it's all about.
It is what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the end, it's all about the action figures. That was a fun show.
That was a lot of fun working on that show.
We've talked a lot about that show on this show.
Oh yeah, right on.
A lot of the people that have been on the show have worked on Mega Man and had a blast.
Oh yeah, there's so many characters on that show that I'm sure everybody had a piece at some point.
And it was like really cartoony kind of characters too. Like you could go over the top and do cool stuff with that. Transformers, Energon, Kicker.
Yes, Kicker.
Yes, Kicker.
Probably one of the whinier characters in the whole Transformers universe. But again, action figure.
That's right. And it's unbelievable because I never got an action figure out of that.
What?
Yeah, I know. Alpha Q didn't have an action. He was
You've got to be kidding
he was
me.
too big and ugly to have. I think is the thing. 3 heads and it's too hard. To
you know what? It will happen. It will happen eventually. Somebody be like, you know what? This is an untapped market.
That's
here.
right.
Alpha
it's an
Q.
untapped resource.
And hopefully it'll have some kind of crazy sound chip in it too.
Well, one would hope.
Yes,
I mean, I did 3 voices for the guy. You'd think they'd do something interesting with the toy.
Absolutely. And there was actually, getting back to Mega Man a little bit, they came out with a gigantic 12-inch cross-fusion Mega Man figure with sound activation.
Oh, wow.
So I was all excited, picked it up on eBay, it arrived at my house, pressed the button. Ooh, that guy kind of sounds like me. Not me.
You know what?
Me. Oh.
That Martin of Martin's Mailbag, who we'll be hearing from a little later in the show, he sent me a note about that, how that's not the only time that's happened either.
Yeah, I remember when we were working on X-Men, they had some talking figures for Sabretooth and for Wolverine, of course. And they didn't have, Scott McNeil or Michael Donovan doing the voices.
Right. And we worked on a show called Crypto the Superdog here, which I remember specifically we went in to do the voice recording for the toys.
Perfect.
And the toys are released now, although for some reason they can't find the one I did. I'm always getting the shaft. I don't know what it is.
Oh.
But apparently, again, this was Martin who heard the toys and went, I don't think those are you guys. But I specifically remember going in specifically to record the 10, 12 lines that were supposed to happen when you pulled the string in the back.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a button these days.
Yes, oh, yes.
It's
high-tech stuff.
It's not 1974 anymore.
Oh, that's what the problem is. Oh, damn. So apparently that's very common. They say, oh, yeah, we're going to put you in a toy. And then they don't. They get some LA gag, I guess.
It's kind of too bad because that's really what
Again,
it's all about.
It is what it's all about.
I mean, having an action figure's sweet. having an action figure that you press a button, it's your voice,
Yeah, that's
even
something.
sweeter.
That's
you know?
major brownie points with any nephews you may have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all it would take is a phone call. Hey, Brad, you want to do a voice for your toy? Yes, please.
definitely.
Where do I have to pay you? That's pretty much it. Pretty much it, right? You get it.
And on X-Men Evolution, you were Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
That was a cool. See, now again, you mentioned before about how you only play the leads, and you know, but that was a great character, and that you were doing this accent, sort of a German accent.
Yeah, that was a
right?
first. Yeah,
That was
sort
very-
of German. I like your wording there. Sort of German.
Well, I only say that that's not against you. That's because all of the Marvel people tend, at that time anyway, tended to really want to pull back on the accents. Because I played Pyro, who had the Australian accent, and I had to really pull back on that as well.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to have people not understand
Yeah,
what
exactly.
we were saying, I guess.
You got to understand. There's kids watching this show, and I just don't get it. I can't understand.
saying.
Yeah, and
talk funny.
for the first episode of X-Men, I laid that accent on pretty thick, and then I got a note for the second batch. Yeah, we're gonna make him a little more German American.
More, he's German in that he eats bratwurst. Not so much sounds like a German. This is one of my favorites because this was one of my first big shows, and I was blessed enough to work side by side with Mr. Brad Swaile on this one. This is The Soul Taker. Soul Taker!
Yes, one of the best opening sequences in history.
Without question.
Yeah.
Without question. It's funny. There's a lot of people that they don't think the show's very good, but they appreciate our work on it, which is nice.
Oh, that's something.
Like Drac at Crystal Acids, he's written in before saying, the show not so much, but you guys were awesome in it.
Oh, that's
so
sweet.
That's kind of cool.
You have to say that when you're writing into a Trevor Devall show, though, right? But you were phenomenal.
Yeah, wait a
Blew
minute.
my
Wait a
mind.
minute. I never thought of that. Oh, curses, Drac, you liar. No, it's that was a lot of fun to do because it was a really intense, dark kind of adult show, and that was wild. It was also the first show for me that I did the Han Solo character to your Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, with my lightsaber. Oh, I'm sorry, my laser
My laser sword.
Yes, quite, of course.
Yeah, that it's funny because I use that when I teach. I use that show as an example of some things to look for when I'm talking about dubbing terms that we have to look at in the script, like on or off or MNS, which means mouth not seen, and all that kind of stuff. Because it's like a whole other language when you look at an ADR script.
And it's confusing.
It can be, yeah. Once if you're not used to it. But I use episodes from Soul Taker as an example, and one of the things I talk about is how in cartoons, if you really want to understand cartoons and you understand the characters, then watch Star Wars, because the original Star Wars has all the archetypes in it, right? You've got the young hero, you've got sort of the older brother sidekick type who's Han Solo, you've got the old man they go to when they need help, which is Obi-Wan, you've got Darth Vader, who's the villain who can be redeemed, and all this stuff, and they're all in there, so much so that when you watch Soul Taker, of course, and then there your character is with a lightsaber. They'll go, yeah, I guess
Curious.
It's kind of Luke-like. So that was fun to do. What are we, 13 episodes of that one, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah,
It was kind of a short run.
Series.
That's all right.
It's
All the goodness in a small package.
There you go. That's right. You, like the rest of us, did a stint on Inuyasha. Nobunaga. I don't know if you remember that.
Nobunaga,
That's wild.
yes.
Nobunaga. Sorry.
No,
Nobunaga.
close enough.
Again, my listeners know I can't pronounce anything.
And yes, that was. I was pretty excited to work on that show for the whole episode that I did.
That's okay. I've got like 3.
Okay,
It's fine.
but mine was like episode 8 of a 500 episode series or whatever it turned out to be, right? And like, okay, so when's my character coming back?
Yeah, not so much. Although I'm sure all of our listeners can probably quote all of your lines that you had in that episode.
Probably not. All I remember about that episode is the monkey.
The monkey.
I was overshadowed by a monkey. Yeah. Don't ask. Let's move on.
All right, moving on. This caught my eye. Breaker High.
Oh no! We're gonna go there. Yeah,
we have to go there.
Okay, fair enough.
This is your career, Brad Swale. Breaker High. You actually did an episode of Breaker High.
Yeah, when I started getting into the acting, I started off doing theater,
Right.
like a lot of people did, in elementary school and then a bit in high school, and then I got mixed up with a place called the Vancouver Youth Theater, and did some touring productions with a very youth-oriented cast, touring around elementary schools, high schools, some different organizations would put on events, and we'd come and perform our shows. and whatnot. So when I was doing that, that's when I started to get into to on-camera acting and whatnot. So I had, you know, a couple little on-camera gigs, and then I had my first audition for a cartoon, which was My Little Pony Tales, and and I got the part, and the rest is kind of history a little bit. I mean, the voice acting is something that I could never give up, because I just enjoy it way too much.
Yeah.
The on-camera stuff, very taxing, especially when you're going to school and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot, and I hated auditioning for on-camera work. Loved being on set, don't get me wrong. Once they book you, it's the best job in the world, right? But I hated the whole audition process for that. Whereas with the voice acting, I love every aspect of it. You know, the people are great. Even, you know, in auditioning, those types of scenarios, you're running into people that you're friends with who are more than happy to see you succeed, and, you know, vice versa, right? If somebody beats you out for a part, you'll rib them a little bit, but people are genuinely happy for whoever gets cast in whatever role and whatnot.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly the way I describe it to people when they ask me about it. It's so much fun. It's great people, and again, like there's no ego involved anywhere. Yeah. So it's nice. But we're still talking about your history. Oh, no. Yes, your mighty history. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that was one of my first cartoons as well.
15 episodes, apparently, you did.
Well, you know...
Or IMDb, not so much with
No, they're probably correct, but I probably had 1 or 2 sessions to cover those 15 episodes.
I see.
Because I think more or less what I said was, back at you with Sonic the Hedgehog. But you got to imagine like a 14-year-old me, back at you with Sonic the Hedgehog. Back at you with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Back at you with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well... it's still impressive.
Well, thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, it's still impressive.
I shouldn't have explained it. It would have been even more impressive.
Well, no, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. You like the narrator, kind of.
Yeah, more or
there
less.
You go.
See, and I'm not sure if I ever had a character that actually went along with that voice, or if it was the, we'll be right back type that would have been on the screen, and then just my squeaky voice in the background. Not entirely sure, but there you have it.
There it is. My Little Pony Tales.
Yes.
Ace.
Yeah, Ace.
Was that one of your first shows?
That was my first cartoon.
The very first show, eh?
Yeah. And I mean, if you could look back and see the cast on that show, wow. You had your Kelly Sheridans, your Maggie Blues.
Oh, yeah.
Venus Terzo was on that show. Kiara was on that. Willow Johnson was on. I mean, there were so many people that were on that show that are just have exploded since then.
Yeah.
Laura Harris.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tony Sampson was on that show. Shane Meyer. There were 3 boy ponies.
Right.
And I was the badass.
Well, with a name like Ace, I would hope so.
Well, yeah. And now Tony, he was a pretty bad pony, but I was a mean-spirited pony.
Oh.
So I think I win. I think I edge him out just a little bit.
You were jackass pony.
Something like that.
I wanted to add a character to that show, but I didn't really go for it. I wanted to add Warhorse. I thought Warhorse would be an interesting, a big black warhorse that comes in and tramples on all the little ponies and laughs evilly. You think?
Might scare the kids.
Well, that's the point. I mean... No, it's not the point.
It would make an excellent action figure. I don't know if Hasbro would go for it. I don't know. Could be me.
Somehow, I don't know. Just Warhorse doesn't seem to work. And Hamtaro.
Yeah, Hamha,
and you were Maxwell.
Maxwell, you bet.
And Maxwell was one of the Ham-Hams, was he?
Yes, indeed. Yep.
One of the main Ham-Hams.
He was a bookworm.
A bookworm?
Yeah, he was. Okay, if you need to pick him out from a Ham lineup, look for the abnormally large ears. That's my boy Maxwell. No.
You were also Teen Gohan on Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z.
That's a big one.
How cool was that?
No kidding.
Particularly being a character, I mean, because obviously Gohan's younger when the series starts.
Yes.
So I already knew that the series was just huge, just this big, phenomenal, extravaganza, if you will. And then I heard they were auditioning for Dragon Ball Z. For Gohan. Oh, no way. Must get this role. And I got it. I was giddy. Everybody else had been working on the series for so long. I think they'd kind of settled into the routine. And I showed up kid in a candy store, right? And so that was a real blast.
That's really cool when you get that experience. Like for me, it was about Battle of the Planets. We had done a remake of the pilot, hoping it was going to go to series. I don't think it ever did, or if it did, it didn't happen here. But I remember, because I watched that show when I was a kid growing up. I'd run home from school to watch that show. And so a couple of years ago when they did the remake of the pilot, and I auditioned for Zoltar, which is the big bad guy, and I got the job. And that was just like, oh my God, I'm Zoltar. It was just, it's like somebody saying, well, you're going to be the new Darth Vader. It's like what Hayden Christensen must have felt like before he
must have flipped right out.
the role. Right, yeah. So
I had a similar experience with Transformers, because I knew the Transformers was happening,
right?
And when I had an opportunity to audition for Energon, just being part of the whole Transformers world, it just got me so excited. That's probably why the character's so whiny and energetic in that show, is because it's just me being super giddy to be working on a Transformers show and fighting alongside Optimus and all those guys.
That's a dream come true.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's cool. Well, listen, Bub, we're going to take a little tiny break here, but we'll be right back to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests with my good guest, my good friend, Mr. Brad Swale. Don't go anywhere.
Order, I say! We'll never get anywhere if you all keep talking out of turn.
But, sir, all we want to know is where to go to hear our favorite animation voice actors talk about their careers.
Yeah, that's right. And for them to give us budding voice performers advice on how to get into the business.
Darn right, Mr. Meyer. We all just love them cartoons so gall darn much. We all go to conventions and listen to them voice actors talk. We can't wait to hear them talk about working in the business.
All right. You all know that Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests is the place to go to hear some of animation's hottest voice actors talk about the business. But
tell me, Mr. Meyer, do they talk about anime?
Naturally.
But hey, they talk about the American Prelay cartoons that they do too,
Of
right?
course they do. If they were a voice in it, they'll discuss it. Anime, prelay, video games, any and all voice work they do is up for discussion.
This Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. How do we download it, huh?
That's the easy part. Just go to www.trevordevall.com. You'll find all the latest episodes there.
Why then? What if we want to subscribe to it?
Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests is located on iTunes and Podcast Alley. It's really very simple, people. It's like he's bringing the convention to your iPod. Look, don't make me come down there and use this gavel. Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests, an internet talk show starring some of animation's biggest voice actors. Go to www.trevordevall.com or subscribe on iTunes or Podcast Alley.
We interrupt this eargasmic cornucopia of pure audio win to shamelessly promote another podcast.
No!
The Big Bald Broadcast.
But what makes it big and bald?
The Big Ball Broadcast brings you news on all things geeky, movies, gadgets, games, cartoons, and anime, and other random fandom.
You're fired.
I'm fired.
Get out of the booth, Jack.
No, I like it in here.
But what makes it big and bald?
It's hosted by big, bald anime and video game voice actor Kyle Hebert and his co-host, musician and upcoming author, Otherworld Steve.
Oh, you must smell like feet wrapped in leathery burnt bacon.
Subscribe via iTunes or visit thebigballbroadcast.blogspot.com.
That was totally wicked!
You're listening to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests.
And we're back with Brad Swale on Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. I want to talk a little bit about a very common question that we get a lot at the conventions, so I ask it to all my guests here.
Okay, fire away.
What are some of your favorite moments in the studio? And it doesn't have to be related to any specific show or anything like that, but just some memorable times and moments at work.
Oh dear. You're gonna get me in trouble, aren't you?
Yes, that's the whole point.
I shouldn't tell my Scott McNeil story. I should probably let him tell you that.
Well, he'll have a few, I think, of his own. So why don't you enlighten us?
Okay. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this one before, but this goes back to the X-Men days.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know, Scott McNeil played Wolverine.
Wolverine.
Right?
Snicked.
Yes, probably one of the coolest characters ever invented.
Yeah, no question.
And if you know Scotty at all, he gets quite into the roles that he plays. He has to, right? He's a very expressive man, and especially when you're fighting with adamantium claws and whatnot. So we're during this gigantic battle scene, and Wolverine claws out, wreaking havoc, berserker attacks, all that kind of stuff. So Scotty's probably going through about a 2.5, 3 minute fight scene with all the all the great things that Scotty does, and gigantic crescendo to the end, big finishing blow, and all you hear in the studio is just priceless. And you hear this little beat pause, and then it just erupts in there. The people in the booth were killing themselves. The engineers, directors, clients, everybody was just killing themselves, and it was just priceless. And Scotty just turned bright red and just laughed. So little things like that. That's one thing that you don't have. See, I won't have too many funny stories about anime shows that I work on, because generally it's just me in a booth, and I don't consider myself all that funny. But for some of the prelay shows we work on, you have an entire cast in the room, and that's when things get really out of control, and you can really embarrass other people by telling stories about them.
Oh, it's not hard to do at all. Yes.
But as far as I will tell an anime story. This isn't like a funny story or nothing, but for Black Lagoon, just recently, I had to speak Japanese.
Oh wow!
Hey, sold it.
Hey,
I barely speak English. I don't speak Japanese at all. Luckily or not, I actually did get to spend about 2 weeks in Japan when I was 13, 14 years old. I was working on some theater show and was invited over there for that. So I drew upon that experience to, I had probably between 20 and 30 lines in Japanese for an episode of Black Lagoon.
Wow.
And so I had some help. I was given a recording of how these lines were supposed to sound, slowed down so that I could pronounce every little syllable, and then read at regular speed. I didn't sleep very well the night before that session. But yeah, so I walked in there, and I mean, for me to memorize Japanese dialogue, forget about it. But this one little paragraph I had memorized just to kind of help me get into the Japanese speech.
Right.
And so I walk into the studio, and I don't think I was making eye contact with anybody. It was like, "Oh, Brad, so you ready for the big show today?" I'm like, and then I would just ramble off this line. Okay, all right. But I got through it, and I'm hoping it worked out pretty well. The downside to that is my character Rock is going to be translating for another character, so there's going to be dialogue going right over top of my Japanese, which for me gonna kind of suck because I want to hear how I did.
Right.
But for anybody that actually speaks Japanese, it might make me sound a little bit better. Let's hope. So, stay tuned and look for that.
Japanese very good when other people speak over you and cannot hear what you say.
I'm afraid that's probably about it, too.
Wow, that's a rare treat to actually have to speak another language in a show.
Yeah.
Especially Japanese, because we do a lot of accents in shows, and that's the one accent we're never allowed to do.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Baraka. Oh, that's great. Now, you mentioned before that you started off in theater, and that you were part of the Vancouver Youth Theater, and I think that some of other guests were involved in that kind of thing as well.
Miss Kelly Sheridan.
Yep. Yes.
I met her when I was 14 years old, and we were auditioning for the same touring production.
Wow.
At that theater. So
wow.
I mean,
so how is it that you started in theater, but how did you wind up getting involved in the wonderful world of voice?
By accident.
Well, that sounds familiar.
Basically, I was involved with this theater, and there was an acting agency which was right across the street. This was on Broadway, of course. We have a street in Vancouver called Broadway, so there you go. Yes. And I guess they were just kind of watching what kind of kids were coming through the theater, and at one point, me and my sister were both involved with the theater, and the agency approached us and asked if we'd want to, get involved with the agency, and they'd start sending us out on auditions and things, and of course, we'd both jumped at the opportunity. And from there I just started auditioning for local TV shows and commercials and things like that. And then I had my first audition for a cartoon, and it's just kind of gone from there. It was not something that I ever really saw myself doing, but once I started getting into that industry, I just fell in love with it.
And what was your first audition? Do you recall?
Probably not, because I didn't get it, I'm sure. But one of my first auditions, it was pretty close to the beginning. I did get this role. It was there was a show that was based around kids, called The Odyssey, which was all shot here, and it was a big production for Vancouver. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it ran for a few seasons and whatnot. And I was
a really cool show.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I got to work on one episode in the first season. There was actually, there was so many, local actors that worked on that show, and a lot of them in the voice community too. Like Tony Sampson was a regular in that show.
Right.
Mark Hildreth.
Really? Yeah,
regular in that series. There's so many people that were in that show, and so it's partway through the first season. I got to play a character called Commander Scud.
Oh wow!
Of the Liberators. He was kind of a war guy.
Yes, with a name like that.
Yes, kidnapped the main character. So I mean, that was my first real taste of being on an official set. I had my own dressing room, which I thought was really cool. Took a couple pictures next to the door that had my character's name on it because I was so excited. But yeah. And one of my proudest works, though, was a commercial that I did. It was for Ontario Milk.
Ah.
Yeah. And I was on screen for maybe 3 seconds in slow motion. But
3 long seconds.
Yeah. But the audition for that was, it was kind of a cattle call. So they'd just bring, 5 or 6 people in at the same time, and they just make us do stuff. They'd have a bunch of props and things kicking around, and I just started playing the drums at that point. So they had like a bongo drum. So I picked that up for a little bit, and under that was a hacky sack. And I ditched a lot of classes in high school so I could go out and play hacky sack with my friends. I shouldn't say this. So I put the drum back down, picked that up, and I mean, luckily there was a couple people that were in this group with me that I knew through the Vancouver Youth Theatre.
Right.
So we just started kicking the hack around. Next thing I know, I got a call from the agencies. Yeah, so you booked that Ontario Milk commercial. That was one of the best days of my life, man, because I was on set filming, and all I was doing was kicking a hack around with a bunch of beautiful people, right? And here I am in my torn up jeans, looking all scruffy, and but yeah, the little clip of our segment that they showed, it was me up in the air, rocking a gesture or something. So in slow mo.
And you were destined for superstar status from that day on.
And that's what did it, pretty much, yeah.
And you said the first voice show you did was My Little Pony.
Yep.
And was that your first voice audition too, or had you done this?
I think I might have. It was my first audition for a show. I think I had auditioned for probably a voiceover for some like a board game commercial or something like that.
Right. But the first cartoon was.
Yeah. And I was lucky to get it, so.
I ask that because often some people's first voice audition stories can vary wildly. Mm-hmm. I know that with mine, I don't know if I've ever told this story on the show before, but my very first audition was for Spider-Man. This is years ago.
This is years ago now, way back when.
And I was so green that I didn't even know to put the headphones on. So I went in the booth. And, of course, I could see, the director was up from L.A., and he says, L.A. guy, hey, all right, how you doing? Good to see you, all right. So you're going to be reading for Peter Parker, right? Yeah, Peter Parker's going to be great. So I go in the booth, and he starts to talk to me, and I can see him, of course, through the glass. And he says to me, because I can hear what he's saying, because I don't put the headphones on. I saw these headphones sitting there, and I thought, oh, no, I don't want to touch those. Those look like gear. I don't want to break anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, obviously, I didn't get that job. But, yeah.
Oh, that's adorable.
That's adorable.
So you started in theater, you did some on-camera stuff, you auditioned for My Little Pony, and booked that, and the floodgates opened, and you were working in cartoons ever since.
Yeah.
More or less.
I wouldn't say the floodgates opened, but In my mind, they did, because I realized right away that it was something that I was really interested in continuing. But it's not always easy to just demand work and have it show up on your lap.
This
right?
is true. This is true. No. Do you still do on-camera stuff?
No, I haven't done on-camera work in years.
Now, why is that?
Well, partly, I think, again, it was just the audition process that I really didn't enjoy too much. And also, when I was, getting later on in high school, I had to decide. I knew I was going to go to some kind of post-secondary institute for more further education and whatnot.
Yes.
And I had to decide what I was going to do. And for me, taking theater or acting just didn't really interest me all that much. I had taken drama through high school, and I think I'd got my fill of it there. I've always been an art guy. I've drawn
visual art guy.
Yeah, I've drawn all my life. Be it crayons, pencils, pens, whatever, what have you. So I decided that's what I was going to take. So I ended up taking graphic design and illustration, and I do that to this day.
Right.
This is one of the industries. I mean, if you're not a full-time actor, a successful full-time actor, it's not an easy thing to make a living off of. Particularly doing ADR anime shows, they don't always pay as well as one would think.
Right.
So yeah, I have what I call, and I'm doing air quotes, my real job. The voice acting obviously is the dream job, and if I could do that full time and not have to do anything else, I would be an extremely happy camper. But I have my fallback job too, which is the graphic design illustration.
Right, but it's also something that you're passionate about.
Absolutely,
something that
absolutely. It's something that I would be doing anyway.
Right. So you can't really ask for more than that. I mean,
not really.
If you're in a position where you're exploring your passions and you're able to actually get paid to do it, that's a pretty good setup. Not a lot of people can make that claim.
If I can pay my rent and keep some food in my belly, and still be able to play hockey and do things like that, then
it's
it
all
works
good.
out well.
I'm guessing it's only some food in your belly because he's very skinny. he's just a waif of a man sitting here in front of me. So
I prefer lean, Trevor. Thank you.
I made some shepherd's pie. Do you need? I can fatten you up right now.
We'll talk.
We'll talk. Another thing that we get asked all the time is if you had any advice for young budding voice actors who wanted to get involved in the business, what would that be? And I'm sure you probably have been asked this question several times at conventions.
And I know I don't really have a great answer for it.
Well, nobody does, so it's all
yeah,
right.
okay, good.
No pressure.
It's not just me then.
No, it's not just me. Nobody really knows. It's all windbags on this show. People just blah, blah, blah.
Okay, perfect. I fit right in. One thing, when I get asked that question, something I think, one of the hardest things about getting into this industry, once you have your foot in the door, it's a little easier to kind of navigate your way through the industry. One of the trickiest things is getting an audition slot for a show, in my opinion. I mean, everybody probably has varying opinions on all this. But if a production is coming to town, and I can only speak from how it is in Vancouver, because, I mean, I'm sure in different cities, it's probably very different or varying in some regards. But yeah, the tricky thing is getting that audition slot, because if a show comes up here, then usually local agencies will get the nod that there's auditions happening, and they'll have maybe 4 slots for a particular character. Tell the agents, run through your roster, fill those slots, boom. So you figure that happening throughout agencies in town, audition slots will fill up pretty quick. So for somebody that doesn't have any kind of representation, I would imagine it'd be very difficult to get your foot in the door to even record an audition for any kind of a role. So my advice, take it or leave it, is look at what's happening in your community. And a good way to start is with agencies or acting unions, or both even. In Vancouver here, what I usually suggest is contacting the local acting unions, asking for a list of reputable agencies in town, and then calling them up and seeing which agencies have voice departments. A lot of them do. I mean, when I was first getting into this, I don't think any really had specific agents designated to voice talent. Now that's a very common thing. So I mean,
since we're the only ones working.
Indeed. Asking questions isn't going to hurt you. So, and that's basically it. I think the agencies would probably have a better idea than even somebody like me would as to how can I get my foot into a studio's door to audition for anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Don't expect to be working on mega productions right from the start. I don't think you can really want to be a voice actor and work on Pixar productions or work for Disney. There's a lot of voice gigs out there. Audition for everything and take what you can get. So yeah, because it's going to be different for everybody and for every location, it's a start. I don't really know what else to say. Call around and talk to people. People will have varying opinions, and then use your head and figure out what will work best for you. Information is power, correct?
Information is power.
Yes.
A lot of the questions we get to revolve around formal training and such.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, well, do you need to go to school for this? Do you, did you go to Crazy Eddie's crazy school of voice acting? You didn't have any formal training in this at all. You said you did some drama stuff with the Vancouver Theatre, and then you did some stuff in high school, but then you sort of moved on to graphic design.
Yes.
So you didn't have any sort of post-secondary training.
No, not really. I would take little workshops every once in a while just to kind of keep up my chops and just kind of see. I mean, because I did a lot of theatrical-based training when I was in high school, doing a lot of play building and theater sports and things, and that's all practice. That's going to help you. But yeah, no, it's not something that I really kept up on. The
fact is, there's it's not like there is Crazy Eddie's school of voice acting.
True
out
enough,
there.
right?
I mean, any post-secondary education that I've ever spoken at, and I've taught at a lot of these places right across the country, and every time I talk to the BFA classes, the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting, it's none of them. They all have the same reaction to the voice world that I did when I found out that there's a career in this.
Yeah.
It's not something that's very often talked about, and especially in a place that's predominantly teaching theater courses. So it's not something that's very common. You don't often hear people saying, well, Billy, you could be a policeman, or you could be a fireman, or you could be a voice man. It's not something that comes up. It's not one of the first jobs that the school counselor is going to talk to you about.
Until, people get to meet us at conventions or whatever and just hear us rave about how it's the best job in the world and we're so lucky and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, we work 4 hours a week.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it is a good job. It's a fantastic job, and I'm very pleased to be one of the few, the proud, that are part of this great community here in Vancouver.
Indeed.
We've got a whole lot of questions and stuff coming up. I want to get to that in just a second. But first, let's go to the mailbag.
Martin's Mailbag.
Thank you, Benny the Sheep. We've got a whole bunch of stuff from Martin out there in Toronto, who's got all kinds of things to talk about tonight. The first thing he talks about is just a general observation on our good friend Brad Swale, as well as some other actors in town. Based on the number of years you and the rest of our Vancouver friends, that would be to me, have been doing voice work, one thing I have noticed is that the Vancouver voice actors' voice ranges continue to evolve, and thank God. Two of the more noticeable examples are Brad Swale and Brian Drummond, but also Trevor Devall, and I take exception to the fact, because most of the time you'd see shows that I'm on and you wouldn't even know it's me. That's the talented I am. Right. It's neat seeing how after all these years, the voice ranges continue to reach new types of characters that were never done before. For example, Brad Swale is Owl.
Yep. Very good, very good.
Destiny. And Brian Drummond is Streaky the Cat in Crypto. That was a great voice he did.
It was showing way up here.
And Brian's got that natural
absolutely.
rasp, so
Yeah.
it was fantastic. As well as Brian plays a number of characters on Class of the Titans as well. Very versatile. He also talks about how a Brad Swale interview transcript will be on the Anime Master section of the YTV website around Friday, October the 12th. Martin works at YTV, so he's well disposed to be in contact with the Anime Master there. And the address for that, the web address will go up in the show notes on the website after we're done here. Also, for the fans, keep watching Crunch, because the Fantastic Four episode with yours truly, Trevor Devall, will be airing soon, and I believe it may be as soon as this Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. That's both Eastern and Pacific. Check that out to see if the Diablo episode of the Fantastic Four is going to be airing on YTV. That was my character on the show, so I'm very excited to see that. He also has a quick mention about an interesting thing we got in a conversation about, which we have already talked about tonight, which is this idea about toys having the voices of the characters. And on Crypto, there was a Crypto toy, which was Sam. There was Streaky, which was Brian. There was Ace, which was Scotty. And there was a Hot Dog, which was me. And he sent me an email saying, are these really the voices? Because they don't sound like them. And I haven't heard the toys, but, judging on what happened with you, it's hard to say. Maybe we got replaced at the last moment. Bizarre. But he has a very special announcement. Death Note has been confirmed for airage on YTV.
Don't toy with me, Trevor.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's coming on Friday, October the 26th at 10 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
On YTV. That's both Eastern and Pacific, so we'll get together and drink a bottle of rum and watch that.
Absolutely.
On that Friday night. Also, for Avatar fans, Avatar now moves to Fridays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. And to kick it off, we have an Avatar marathon this Friday, October the 12th. At 7:15 Eastern and Pacific. And they'll be airing the Avatar special and some other episodes featuring the first 4 episodes of Season 3. So that's all cool. There's a couple more things from the mailbag here. Again, regarding mostly, or relating mostly to you there, Brad. Martin points out that some of your characters, such as Mouse and Harry Champ, always have problems getting the girl.
It's Moose, not Mouse. See. You call him Mouse, he's going to have more problems getting that girl.
See, it's almost to a point where I have to mispronounce names. Because if I pronounce names correctly, the fans would be like, what? But we're so used to you blowing this. So the question is, does that actually translate into your real life? Do you, Brad, have problems getting the girl, too?
Do we really have to talk about that?
No, we don't.
Forum? You're bringing up painful
I know, but you know
here.
what? It can't be any more painful than my love life. My God. Speaking of toys, you have a couple of kicker toys from Transformers Energon and maybe a changing color Nightcrawler toy from X-Men Evolution.
It's true.
There's also a talking Mega Man toy that sounds like you, but it's not you.
Yeah.
Which we talked about already.
It's great. The guy does a fantastic job, though. I'd really like to meet him.
Well, maybe we'll have him on the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the wannabe Brad Swale. He's on the line from LA. Okay. Fans could still hear Brad as Diarca and Owl. Nice. On Gundam Seed Destiny, as it will continue to air on YTV. And one more thing from the mailbag. The Anime Master section of the YTV website will soon have highlights and interviews from the CN Anime Fan Expo convention that took place in August. And let us move on to our fan questions. The first one is from Melissa. Now, I do have to warn you, Bradley, that
oh, no.
Melissa and Daniela have been having a little contest as to who can ask the best question ever.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to get right to it. Melissa says, it was great seeing you again at CNA last month.
Yes.
Mucho fun, and
Always.
I hope that you had a safe flight home.
I'm here, so
I guess that's a yes. As for questions, here we go. Daniela and I have officially started a competition to see who can ask the best question ever. So, be afraid.
I got the fear for sure.
As for questions to ask, it's really hard because I've asked Brad so many questions in the past. It's hard to think of something that hasn't been asked a million times before. So, if you were able to turn into any animal at all, what animal would you turn into and why?
I love the and why.
That's
now
right.
I have to justify
exactly,
it
because
too, right?
it's not just a bullfrog. No, you have to say why. So if you could turn into any animal at all, and I guess that would be
That's
what,
tough.
like a superpower? Like mild-mannered voice actor by day, crazy, anaconda by night.
Sure, why not? Okay, see, I don't have one answer for that. I'm going to have a few, I would think.
Oh, well.
Okay, because first of
this
all,
will please the fans.
I can't fly. So any kind of a flying animal,
Right.
it's a good start,
A
right?
bat, an insect of some sort.
No, see, I would. I don't think I would go right to bat or insect. But but there's also animals that I've never seen before, such as like dinosaurs, right?
Oh.
So why not a pterodactyl or something like a flying dinosaur, because that would really freak everybody out.
Yes,
you
it
know?
would.
You know,
That's cool.
and try and catch me. No, you can't catch me in your net. Look at me fly.
Look at me.
But
Rip through your neck
so
'cause I'm
that's
a dinosaur.
those are. Oh, see. Yeah, I'm born in the year of the dragon, too. I mean, dragon, how cool would that be?
Okay, well,
with the breathing fire and all?
With the
yes.
breathing fire in the hay.
She didn't actually limit the question to
Okay.
realistic animals, so
Okay.
dragon would be an acceptable.
Okay.
I've determined,
Fantastic.
as the moderator here,
Okay.
I'm saying dragon is a fine answer.
Perfect. Okay, and I should probably pick a mammal too.
Well, I mean, we are the dominant type of animal on the planet.
Well, one of my favorite animals would be the leopard. So
the leopard?
Cool not the leopard. The leopard. Duh. Sorry, allow me to enunciate. The leopard.
You should really take some voice acting lessons.
You think? Where can I get those?
Well,
do you know anybody that teaches?
I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
The leopard. Why the leopard?
I'm just a big fan of the leopard. It's a big mean cat that is super strong, relatively quick, and it climbs.
So you would be a cat person as opposed to a dog person?
I like them both.
Really?
Yeah. No, I grew up with a dog and a cat. I'm not.
Oh wow!
I'm not really partial.
Dogs
to
and cats living together.
Yeah.
It was
They
chaos.
hated each other. It was priceless.
Well, they're supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not surprising or nothing, but
the next one is from Jonathan. He says, "You guys are great guys, and I hope to hear more of Voiceprint." Well, thanks, bud. My question for both of you is that have you ever met any of your Japanese counterparts? In other words, have you ever met Japanese voice actors? I have not. I have met some of the Japanese producers, and I've been lucky enough to meet some of the Japanese artists that have worked on shows. I haven't had a lot to say to them because they only spoke Japanese. But no, I've never actually met them, although I'd like to. I would love to meet the guy that played Mula Flaga on Gundam Seed. That would be a big deal for me. Or Shiru of Soul Taker.
Yeah. Indeed.
Have you met any?
I have not met any of my counterparts. Like you, it'd be interesting meeting the voice actress that played Katra in Gundam Wing, because apparently our voices are very similar.
Wow.
Yes, that would be interesting. But I did meet the fellow that played Hiro in Gundam Wing. So not particularly my character, but we were at the same extravaganza at one point, and we had a very quick introduction through a translator.
Of course.
It's the same type of thing. I think we did a couple of photos. Both of us felt rather sheepish, smiled, nodded our heads a lot. We're excited to meet. I'm not sure if this guy even knew who I was. I was excited to meet him, I could say that. But again, there was a bit of a language barrier. So
naturally.
So yeah, we laughed, chuckled, and nodded, and then parted ways. But yeah, it was exciting.
The next question on the contest is from Daniela.
Oh, here we go.
She asks, "What are you wearing?" No, that's not the question.
Nothing.
Well, of course, we wear nothing here when we record this show.
It's quite warm in here. Yeah, you should really get that thermostat fixed here. It's a sauna in here.
Yeah, it was an accident. That's right.
Regardless of how corny it may be, what would your personal ads say?
Oh, my personal ad.
Do you want to lead with that? Or do you want me to lead with that?
No. Is this to you too? Yeah.
Well, this is to both of us.
All right.
Yeah?
No, I'll let you start. Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
My personal ad would say, "Looking for a girl with arms," because that's all that's where my standards are these days.
Yeah.
If they have limbs, send them along. That's how much bad luck I've had this year.
Okay. Well, I hear that. I can probably top that a little. Mine's just gonna say. Looking.
That's all you really just looking. Okay, and not even exclamation mark. Just an ellipsis, 3 dots. Okay.
Maybe if you can add in like a lower lip quiver during that, then there you have it.
There was a grammatical way of showing that.
Indeed,
in
See,
writing
the little sideways smiley face ain't gonna really cut it. Doesn't apply.
Doesn't quite work.
Yeah. Thanks for your lovely embarrassing questions.
This isn't so much a question as a comment, but this one's from Christopher. He met you several years ago at Icon in Long Island, New York. He says, "I was the guy who drew you the anime self-portrait of you alongside Lan Hikari, and you did the 185 cups an hour, I'll be up all night coffee line for one of my characters. I also got a kick out of your high-pitched yowie scream upon one of the questions from the audience, and in tribute, I actually animated you for a cameo appearance in one of my cartoons.
No way. How cool is that?
Go Parody Rangers, a spoof on the old Mighty Morphin Power Rangers show, and we will put the link up in the show notes where you can go and check that out.
Oh, perfect.
So you're immortalized now.
How flattering is that?
In the world of cartoons, you're immortalized. Look at that.
It's about time.
It's about time, damn it. Very cool. Very cool.
Wow.
We have another question from Evan. He says, I really like Voiceprint, so keep those episodes coming. I have 2 questions for you and Brad. What is your most memorable moment as a voice actor? And if you could be any other voice actor, who would you be? Thanks a lot. Well, we've talked about some memorable moments for you
absolutely.
already.
Absolutely.
I, of course, have 1 million memorable moments. God, where do you start? I think maybe I'll dedicate an entire show just to my memorable moments in the booth. So we'll move on to if you could be any other voice actor, who would you be? Well, I got to tell you, if I had to be another voice actor, I would have to be Mr. Brad Swale.
Good answer. Good
and I'm not
answer.
just saying that because he's sitting here with a gun to my head.
Wow.
It's kind of an odd question. If you could be any other voice actor, I don't know.
It's tough. Again, there's so many other voice actors that I would really... Okay, I'm going to get all sappy for a second here.
All right, please do. Please do.
The voice actors that I've met, and particularly in Vancouver, but even, throughout North America, really amazing people. Super nice, very obviously talented. So there's probably a lot of voice actors that I would like to be, not in so much of a creepy way, but... Well,
there's a lot of voice actors' underwear that I would like to wear.
But to be quite honest, I mean, to be able to be a Trevor Devall, a Scott McNeil, a Brian Drummond. I mean, there's so many super wicked talented voice actors, really cool people that have voices very different than my squeaky little, whatever. You work with what you have.
You
right?
do.
So, I mean, yeah, to step into their shoes for a day, week, month, lifetime would be interesting. And I mean,
financial year.
Yeah. And how?
Yes, it's a tough choice because there are so many awesome guys. I mean, like I've said before, Scotty has been my hero since day one.
Absolutely.
And it's cool. A few more to get through here. Tara says, would you ever sport a pompadour?
A pompadour, like Elvis style?
Like Elvis, like an Elvis pompadour, man. Flying monkeys and everything.
That's an excellent question. I am actually a big Elvis fan.
Yeah. So much so that you would wear the hairstyle?
Maybe not so much the full pompadour. I'd be thinking more like 68 comeback special Elvis, where it's kind of the greasy, sweat-riddled pompadour with the gigantic pork chop sideburns that actually comb partially over the ears.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a good look, man. I love the black leather jumpsuit too. I mean, that's just hot.
That's just hot stuff, man. Give me that pompadour. Give me everything that goes along with it, man. Awesome. Don't mess with the king. I would not. That's my answer.
Never say never, Trevor.
Never say never. Well, okay. Janice says, have you ever dreamed as being one of the characters you've voiced, or hanging out or with the character, going adventuring with him, that kind of thing? I think I did so many episodes of Gundam Seed that I can't possibly imagine myself as anybody but Mula Flaga from this point on, which is good because he's pretty cool. But that's a tough one too. I mean, we tend to, if you're working on a project for long enough, obviously you're going to start to have it infect your subconscious.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say dreams so much as nightmares.
Get out of my head! Get out of my head!
But I'm part of you.
No. Oh boy, God, we've got so many, and I'm running out of time here. So our final question for the night, I think this is the last one we have time for. This is from my good buddy Drac at Crystal Acids. This is a question for both of us. He says, I'm rather curious as to what it was like to work with the director from ADV on Nurse Witch Kamugi. Ooh. Was it a different experience from the regular ADR sessions? And that was Scott, I believe his name was, who came up from Texas to direct us. That was a really wild concept, that show.
Yeah.
Because they took all of our characters from Soul Taker and transplanted them into a totally different genre, which was this crazy comedy weirdo show. And that was something else.
Yeah.
And you were, of course, the lead in Soul Taker, and then you were brought into Nurse Witch.
Yeah.
And you really didn't have a whole lot to do.
Not at all, no. I was, gotta watch my wording here. Laser sword wielding, somewhat tough guy, crying blood and all that in Soul Taker.
Right.
And then boy band pop star in Nurse Witch Kamugi.
Wow.
Interesting transition.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, you made the transition very well.
Well, thank you.
You just slipped right in there.
There was a question in there. Oh no, it was great working with
I think Scott. I think that was his name.
It was. I mean, it didn't seem all that different. The difference is, because of their affiliation with the distributors and whatnot, I got a copy of that show.
Yes, we got swag.
Yeah.
They gave us DVDs. They gave us like bags, ADV bag. I still use my ADV bag.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was the best part of that whole experience.
We like free stuff.
We like free stuff.
Yeah.
Give me the free stuff.
The only thing that irked me a little bit with that was I wanted to have an opportunity to do some singing for that, since my character was big boy band pop star, right? But they decided to stick with the original Japanese song. So didn't have that opportunity, which it's probably not the worst thing in the world, but it would have been fun. I would have enjoyed attempting that.
And you are part of a band up here. You've got a band up here, and you've actually played at a couple of conventions. What's the name of the band?
It's called Innovo, IN.OVO.
And do you guys have like a website or anything?
You can check us out on MySpace. We have a MySpace account that I don't really have a whole lot to do with.
All right.
But it's there. I think it's myspace.com/INOVO.
All right. Well, we'll check it out and try and put those up in the show notes so that people can go and check out the band. And you were the drummer for the band.
For this band, yes. I'm pounding the drums.
Pounding the drums.
Yes, indeed.
Pounding out the beats.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, we are out of time officially. I want to thank you so much for coming down to the show.
It's my pleasure, man.
Well, I'm glad you came. I hope you had some fun.
Absolutely.
Talking to the kids.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and thanks to all you out there in Radioland for your lovely, embarrassing questions.
Tune in next time, guys, when my guest is going to be, this is the big one, the lovely, the talented Scott McNeil. So if you have any questions for Scotty, send them in to voiceprint@trevordevall.com. And if you have any comments or questions for me, you can always send them to fans@trevordevall.com. Remember to tell your friends and family all about Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. We are available on iTunes as well as some other places that I currently forget. Check us out at www.trevordevall.com. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you next time in a couple of weeks with Mr. Scott McNeil. Take care, guys. Thank you, Bradley.
No problem.